Today is my 75th birthday, and I have decided to share my birthday wishes. After my time, my wife and I do have goodie bags for all of the board members and Mr. Walters. Wish number one, that this board and all of our elected officials read the changes Mr. Walters is making to the Oklahoma Board of Education's foundational values and policies and see them for what they are, an effort to destroy our public schools and the imposition of one religious belief onto our public schools in direct violation of the state's constitution. Wish number two, in the things causing irreparable harm to our teachers and students, like repeating exaggerated opinions claiming our teachers are groomers, pedophiles, and perverts, accusing teachers of pushing agendas, indoctrinating our kids, or secretly colluding with children to change their identities, or making false accusations that teachers are pandering obscenities and porn to minors. Imagine the damage that this is causing our children's mental health, let alone our teachers. For their benefit, we all must protest these actions and remove those who push these lies from any and all leadership positions. Wish number three is that all those in education have the ability to love, respect, and encourage every one of our 700,000 children on a daily basis, because our children are struggling, and what they need is love and acceptance. No matter what home they come from, what country they come from, no matter what name or pronoun they want to be called, or who they wish to love. If any of you in education are not able to love and encourage every one of our kids in public schools, you do not belong in the room when we are making decisions for their futures. Wish number four is that the Jesus I believe in and learn to love could have stood by me outside these meetings the last 6 months and hear the followers of Mr. Walters spew his hate, fear, misinformation, conspiracy theories, and actual lies about our teachers, students, and schools. Then that he could have been in this room as these same so-called Christians took this podium and called for the killing of those they call perversions. Remember, these are children and adults who are just trying to live, love, and learn in our schools without fear. In closing, Mr. Walters, board members, we are the people. We don't need you in our bedrooms, our homes, and most importantly, our schools. My final wish is this. One day, very soon, I pick up the Tulsa World and read, Walters resigns. See you next month or in court, whichever comes first. With my remaining time, please join me in mourning the loss of any child in our schools driven to suicide by bullying or hate.
Thank you, Mike.
But the words are harsh, and out of respect for their experiences, you need to hear them as they're written. Some were written before the medical examiner report was released, because that was yesterday. But the sentiment remains. The bullying led to the death of my friend Nex. It did. You can't deny it. And we in this room, the adults in this room, need to stop bullying children. It's inappropriate. So I'm going to read, with my remaining time, the letters from the youth that you all have copies. I am tired. I am tired of being afraid in school because of who I am. I'm tired of listening to the whispers and the snickers when I tell the teacher my real name. I'm tired of listening to news from different parts of America about kids dying because of the pins they wore on their bags, or hanging colorful flags in their room, hanging themselves because they were convinced to. I'm tired of being afraid. Just let me exist. We are hurting, and you refuse to hear our pleas. We are hurting, and you call us filth and outcasts. You will be on the wrong side of history in future years. Your God would even be appalled at your behavior. We rely on people like you to hear our voice, yet you repeatedly mute us. Enough is enough. We are human. From a queer, non-binary 12th grader. You claim that you want to protect the kids, but only if those kids are white, Christian, and cis hetero. I pray the Lord forgives you and gives you mercy for the discriminatory remarks that Ryan Walters has made towards queer youth. Queer Oklahomans are part of your community. Boo! My creatives, they draw. This is from the student walkout. And also, protect LGBTQ students. This is not a place for hate. Be the change for Next Benedict. This was a postcard that they drew. This is Moses holding the 1th commandment, which is protect trans kids. It should matter to you that all of your anti-LGBTQ legislation is killing kids through discrimination and suicide and hate crimes like Next. I know it means less to you when it's queer kids that are dying, but their lives still matter. God said, love thy neighbor, and you decided to disregard that. It's truly despicable what you're doing, and I hope it keeps you up at night and makes you as sick as it makes us. Protect queer kids more than the rest of us and quit killing us. Coming from the city of Willingham, North Carolina, growing up with constant bullying of being a queer minority, my parents moved to Oklahoma thinking it would be a safer state, a Christian state, where people would be accepted. Boy, were they wrong. The Oklahoma Education Board has failed me as a student. I cannot escape the hallway without being called and I'm not going to repeat this word, I'll spell it just to spare us all, an faggot. Simply for just walking down the hall and having blue hair. So these are your students, and this is their experience in your school.
I could start today with a moment of silence for Next Benedict, but I think you all have been silent enough for all of us. My name is Nicole McAfee. My pronouns are they and she, and I'm the executive director of Oklahoma's only dedicated statewide two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer plus, or 2S LGBTQ plus advocacy organization, Freedom Oklahoma. Let me tell you about my radical agenda. I want every two-spirit, transgender, and gender nonconforming child to be able to live to adulthood. To be able to go to school each day without fearing for their life or for their safety. I want two-spirit, transgender, and gender nonconforming people to feel like they can stay here. To feel like not having the resources to be able to leave isn't a death sentence. I spent yesterday morning reading over the full autopsy report and the death of Next Benedict. Next Benedict, a name, Ryan Walters, that you still have not said out loud. But I read about the dissection of Nex's body, about every bruise, every contusion, every mark that was the result of being brutally beaten in a bathroom that didn't match Nex's gender that he had to use because of rules you passed here. Nex's autopsy report reads like the physical manifestation of the fear I hear every day from students in schools across Oklahoma, students who are chronically dehydrated because they won't drink water for risk of facing harassment in a bathroom you force them to use. If you truly care about every student, then there are urgent actions you can take. You can repeal the gender discrimination-based single-sex bathroom rules that force districts to choose between the risk of losing funding or the risk of losing student lives. You can repeal administrative rules you passed last spring that force school staff to out queer and trans students even when they know it is life-threatening. You can change the hostile school environments, but it requires action. It is action that Next deserved, and we can't get Next back. But there are just as many students in schools across the state, in your districts, in rural districts, in urban districts, who need you to do something, and they need you to do it now. So I hope that as you hear from folks who are here today, who camped out overnight just for the chance to speak, that you will do something. Next deserves that.
So let's talk about Oklahoma values. My name is Robin Fuchsa. I'm a fifth-generation Oklahoman, and the most hateful among us are not the arbiters of our values. I've served as a public school teacher, library media specialist, and teacher educator, and as a mom of two really smart and kind kids, I'm grateful for my children's public schools. The teachers serving there in our schools across the state are our friends, our neighbors, and in many cases, our family members, and they make an incredible difference in the lives of our kids every single day. Our public schools are the cornerstone of the American dream, offering access to opportunity promised to our children. The right to public ed is guaranteed in Oklahoma's Constitution. The reason Mr. Walters' talking points don't sound like your local school district is that his rhetoric was manufactured by billionaire-backed politicians to undermine trust in our community schools. He repeats their talking points verbatim. Why are they interested in demonizing Oklahoma public schools? They have a problem. People trust their local public schools because our educators partner with us as parents to support our kids' well-being. Walters is trying to convince us otherwise because he and his campaign donors stand to profit from one of our children's most cherished rights. Many children have expressed concern about Walters' incompetence, the Gear Fund blanket approval debacle, his frequent overreach against local control, his spending of our tax dollars for self-promotion, and most egregious, his spouting of misinformation against teachers and children that make our schools less safe. But let's be clear, this chaos is intentional and malicious. Let's not forget that he rose to prominence drawing a six-figure salary, working to Every Kid Counts, an org funded by school privatization advocates like Charles Koch and the Walton Foundation, according to an investigation by the Frontier and Oklahoma Watch. The corruption is on display at every turn. Walters is a cog in the privatization machine, and every minute he remains worsens our teacher exodus. His campaign was funded by Betsy DeVos and Janet Barisi. The latter, you'll remember, also brought a great deal of stress through the OSDE. Oklahomans are smart enough to see the sole reason these folks are pouring money into harming public ed. It's about profit. Privatizing schools and the voucher schemes that take us down that path harm our children, our communities, and our economy. It's not good for the state, but it would help Superintendent Walters, and at this point, it's pretty clear where his interests lie. So every time you hear him or anyone else hurl the word woke or the latest buzzword of the day at your local school, terms they can't define but certainly hope conjure whatever frightens you most, let it serve as a reminder they aren't working for our children. Mr. Walters is loyal to others who absolutely do not share our values. We need leaders with the courage to root out this kind of corruption. Impeachment is the only path forward, because honesty and accountability are Oklahoma values.
I'm here once again to talk about the unintended consequences of misguided good ideas. These would be ideas that are put into place without thought to the rollout or to the actual harm that could come from a program or policy. I'm not sure if you're aware, but this board has, for the past 9 months, held hostage the accreditation status of Tulsa Public Schools. It's admirable to care about the students in Tulsa Public. It's right to care about the students and to want to ensure that they're getting the best education possible. Lord knows we've got headlines aplenty decrying all of our woes in Tulsa. These stories are not why I'm here. The story I'm here to tell today is that of the Oklahoma Teacher Empowerment Program, also known as OTEP, a program lauded to pay teachers six figures and lure the best and brightest to our classrooms. Here's the human reality. Only 10% of the teachers in any district can qualify. This leaves 90% in the dust. Each district is left to decide how their teachers can qualify. In the case of Tulsa Public Schools, they had decided at the beginning of the year not to pursue this program. But 3 or 4 weeks ago, a phone call from Mr. Walters said, hey, let's use this program to increase the scores at Tulsa Public Schools. Let's take some of your best and brightest and put them in front of the students who are struggling. And you know what? I'll even help out. I'll send some State Department employees to cover the classes of your best and brightest while they go do the Lord's work. That left Tulsa to try to decide how to manage a program on short notice. Quick decisions were made about the scores that needed to be increased and who would be able to increase those scores. It was determined that the language arts teachers with high MAP growth and at least an effective on their TLE would be the ones to be the best fit to go teach other students. This automatically leaves out a high percentage of really good teachers because they don't teach language arts this year. This also leaves out those educators who have subjective TLE scores. What it boils down to is a lot of animosity and probable loss of public school teachers for unfair and inequitable practices that our district has been forced to choose because one man with power who holds our accreditation status in the palm of his hand said, hey, let's do this. The premise behind this program is that competition will bring out the best and the brightest in all of our educators who want some piece of this money. The reality is we have a lot of educators looking to leave Tulsa Public Schools, so you might have a win this year. Test scores might rise. 8 sessions with a great teacher, right? That'll do the trick. But what about next year, and the year after, and the year after when we don't have teachers in Tulsa Public Schools? There's also a time at which you can no longer prove correlation or causation. So many things, so many programs are being utilized to bring up these students to speed, and not one of them is going to be able to be data crunched into being that program, or that 2 or 3 or 4 programs that really helped. What about the teacher? Which means teachers in Tulsa Public Schools are going to have to continue all of the programs to fidelity without any knowledge of whether those programs are actually helping.
Hi, my name is Audrey Plonchak, and I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I actually, first time at the state capitol was the state geography bee because I am a huge nerd. First time I saw a tornado, I was playing softball on Covell Road. I was the only kindergartner in the entire Sanger Ridge Elementary who knew the words to the national anthem on the first day because my hyper-focus was patriotic music. And the girl who puts the blue in my hair tap danced with me for 13 years and was in my gifted and talented class for 10. I'm also a parent and a stakeholder in the public schools, which should be the important part. But what I'm hoping is that later, when we combine the words woke, invasion, and leftist to make our new press release, that someone will have the temerity to remind him that the girl who was there for the state geography bee in 1998, maybe she's not an outsider. Maybe I am an Oklahoman, and maybe I do deserve to be here. And in fact, that's why I camped out, took a day off of my job, have my mother taking care of bringing my child home from school so that I could spend 24 hours outside, I hate camping, so that we could talk. I'm real bummed that we don't have any bigger rooms in the entire state of Oklahoma that this could be in, but, you know, thanks for being so conservative with our money. Speaking of which, I'm talking about 9B, which is Summer Boismer. Now, as I said, well, I mentioned conservatism. I am an accountant. I was trained at the woke agricultural and mechanical university called OSU. Now, we do talk a lot about things like return on investment, as well as risk impact. And I don't see that working out with any numbers if we continue to talk about Summer Boismer. She has not lived in this state for 2 full years. She already has gone through and seen a judge who said that you didn't have the case to remove her certificate, and she does not rise to the crimes of everybody else that you've revoked. Last month, you revoked someone who sexually assaulted a child. You revoked the certificate of somebody who beat a special needs child. But today, we're going to talk about a girl who 2 years ago left this state, works in New York City, and we're going to talk about whether or not it's important that we pull her teacher's certificate right now. Where is the return on investment? Where is the risk that she comes back and chooses to engage in our educational system after this? Because I think the likelihood of that, which is how you calculate risk, likelihood plus impact, I think that likelihood is very low. However, she is already suing you, and she's already said that she will be suing if we revoke the license. Your time is up. So let's use conservatism that I learned at Oklahoma Agricultural and Mechanical and the accounting department, and think about ROI.
And Matthew Walters. Told you I'd be back. I'd like to start off today by acknowledging gender non-conforming people have existed as long as human society has. Again, that fact does not care about your feelings, Rai. You can Google, a simple Google research shows you that the American Psychological Association wholeheartedly supports gender-affirming care because it saves lives. I personally think you might clean your own house before taking a giant dump in someone else's living room. We have actual pedophiles in our schools right now. You know this. But instead, you're choosing to frame an entire marginalized group of people for crimes y'all know have been a decades-long problem. And it's largely been ignored. We have politicians who have histories of cheating on their spouses. We have politicians who have secret accounts on gay hookup apps, for Pete's sake. We have politicians who have extracurricular activities that would make every single person in this room blush. Calling queer people groomers is hate speech. And I hold you personally responsible for re-traumatizing me, a survivor of this abuse. How's David Irby's teaching certificate going, by the way? Yeah, you are directly responsible for exacerbating my PTSD and every single other groomed child that has actually gone through this abuse. Several of the books you want yanked are being yanked because of graphic depiction of sexual situations. Sexual abuse. When I described how David Irby groomed and molested me and other teenagers, did that arouse you? Because that is the key aspect of the definition of porn. Words matter, Coach Walters. So, I will have to say one thing. I thank you for getting that investigator to come speak to me, whoever it was. Good job, Brian. I know how you long to be told that. Maybe, just maybe, if you did your job a little more often, you'd hear it a little more. I'll be back next month, because until you keep the names of sexual abuse survivors out of your mouth and stop calling innocent people groomers, I'll be praying for you.
First, want to say that I have decided to speak from my heart. All I have with me is the agenda item, and I do want to say I'm not here to attack anyone. I'm here to speak with love, even though I'm channeling a lot of pain on behalf of my community. I am here to speak on agenda item 9A, which reads as presentation of monthly report on complaints filed and status thereof regarding alleged violations of Code 24-157, which is the administrative rule prohibiting race and sex discrimination. So, if we want to talk about sex discrimination, let's talk about sex discrimination, but let's also talk about sex bullying. The queer community suffers the deepest trauma from sex discrimination and sex bullying. And my queer sibling, Next Benedict, died by suicide, which was fueled by sex discrimination in their school, which is supposed to be a safe space. So I don't know how this process works, but I would like to formally file a complaint on behalf of my dead queer sibling, Next Benedict, for sex discrimination. Do with that what you will. I would also like to say, I understand, Superintendent, you acknowledged the death of Next Benedict without saying their name. You looked down from a piece of paper and read a statement, which I did appreciate. But then when you looked up from the paper, you mentioned a woke mob. You mentioned radical left-wing group. But I am not a woke mob, Superintendent. I am not a radical left group. I live here. I am queer and non-binary. I am born and raised in Oklahoma. I care so much. I care so much about the people of this state. I want to stay here and thrive here. I don't want us to always be at each other's throats. I don't want to see people that look like me and identify like me die. So I'm channeling a lot of emotion today. I live 10 minutes down the street. I live with queer people, and I have queer friends that are always in my presence, and we are not filth. I promise you, we are not perverted. We are not abominations. We love more than you all could understand. We have more love in our hearts than you could understand. And being here today, even though, yes, some of the members of the queer community are expressing anger and maybe flavorful in words, it's because we are mourning our futures as I stand here. Unless change happens, I can't make it here. So please, Superintendent and School Board, allow me to thrive in this state. Thank you.
My name is Nicole Poindexter. I'm a parent of 4 children, raised in our chosen state of Oklahoma and educated in Oklahoma public schools. I send my children to our schools expecting my kids will come home safe. When my child told me he was trans, I did what any parent would do. I took my child to their doctor and I asked the experts for help. We got care at Oklahoma's premier medical facility, OU Med, and there we learned so much from the experts. But none of that knowledge protected my child from the hateful rhetoric and bullying. He was pushed down the stairs, hit, called horrible names that should never be used against children. My child's mental health deteriorated and he started to self-harm. We again sought medical best practices from trained Oklahoma doctors. We realized all the external help in the world wouldn't help my child if he is being bullied full-time in the school he is legally required to attend. Bullying is bad enough, but when it's state-sponsored and comes from the very top of those making policies for Oklahoma's children, it's deadly. My child, after months of harm, tried to take his own life. My child survived. But I can't help but think of the ones who don't, kids like Nex. The policies at this board, under your head, sir, have created targets on already vulnerable children and uses them for pawns for your personal political gain. Oklahoma schools have real problems. We are at the bottom of every metric of where our schools should be, and this board chose to work, and this board could choose to work to increase the literacy of our children. Instead, we are banning books, policing principals' off times, and elevating hate groups to be on our advisory boards. Elevating this rhetoric causes harm. Calls to 988 in the wake of Nex's death have increased. Our kids are watching you call people like them groomers and pedophiles. Kids are watching you call their parents a woke mob for advocating for them. Kids are watching you tell them they are unwanted, and our kids don't want to live in a world where they are not wanted. I nearly lost my son this month, my handsome, charismatic, caring son who would give you the very shirt off his back if he thought you were even slightly chilly. He spent 4 days in the pediatric intensive care unit. We watched his blood pressure drop to a staggering 53/20. Sir, that is not a typo. That is 53/20. We woke him up when his monitor screamed at us because his heart rate was too low. We nearly lost him because he felt unwanted, because of people in leadership not just failing him, but using his unique life path for their own political gain. He's 15 years old. He should be caring about his grades being strong enough for a good college, not who will push him down the stairs because someone in a car video said trans folks are bad. He should be thinking about his first job, not adults calling him filth, and he should be laughing with his friends in the hallways, not having expletives hurled his way. Sir, this board, under your leadership, has caused harm to Oklahoma's children. Choose to be the top 10 leader you claim to be and stop vilifying LGBTQ youth for your headlines and attention. They are not tools for your political aspirations. You started the meeting with a salute to the Oklahoma flag. Its symbols of peace unite all people. Sir, trans children are people. They're Oklahomans, and you are charged with their care. Be the peace they need, or frankly resign for someone capable of loving all Oklahomans. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Maury Turner. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am a trans non-binary Oklahoman. So I get letters from all over the state from students, and a lot of them deeply inspire me. And lately, a good portion of them have really shaken me to my core. Katie read a couple earlier, and I want to read one more. I don't feel safe in this country. If this is the land of the free, then why am I not allowed to be me? I just want to have the same rights as you and your families. I want the same respect and opportunities you get. I don't want to fear for my safety when I'm just living my life, just like you, from a trans man. As elected officials, we are called to represent the folks that we also cannot see. folks who don't look like us or believe like us. And in this case, specifically the youth that we refuse to see, like Next Benedict. The rhetoric that elected officials spread is deadly, as we've heard. It has power, and we know that, or else we wouldn't be elected officials and we would have never ran for office. We know that our voice ripples well beyond the rooms that we are in. An education major came to my office yesterday, and specifically to figure out how they could get rid of you. If I ended my time as an elected official with the most vulnerable populations that I serve, and I get to serve alongside, and with national organizations calling for my impeachment, then I would know that this was not the job for me. I would know that people that I dedicated my time to care for, to make sure that they survive day in and day out, did not think that I was fit to lead them. Being able to be representative of the people of Oklahoma and our youth is probably one of the highest privileges I think anyone could hold. To shame not only the title, but the youth of Oklahoma and the families who care for them couldn't help you sleep better at night. I think about how we are watching a genocide take place and what it looks like for a trans genocide here in Oklahoma. And I think it's best that we actively do our work to not implement that here. Thank you.